Welcome back to the Button Tree Book Club. This week we are discussing the classic romance Emma by Jane Austen. Oh, I should pull that out of there. It's just at the end of the book. We're discussing Emma by Jane Austen, one of her... Oh, buddy. One of her many great romances. I have read a lot of Jane Austen over a lot of years. I read some in high school. I read some in college. I don't think I've actually read Emma before. If I did, I don't remember. Or maybe I read like a short snippet of it as like a literature assignment. But I don't think I've ever read the entirety of Emma. And honestly, I can see why. I love Pride and Prejudice. I love Sense and Sensibility. I kind of like Persuasion. I don't know that I've read Mansfield Park. I have seen all of them in film version of some kind, though. And I love those. Those are great. I love the characters. Love that they've been turned into movies. I think that makes them, like, most of the movie versions I've seen stay pretty true to the stories. And, like, the cast they choose are amazing. But I'm here to talk about Emma the book. I have seen the movie version of Emma. And it was decent. Emma, I have to say, is probably my least favorite Jane Austen book. And I can see why I've never read the whole thing. It's not that it was bad. Like, I don't want to say it was a bad book. I don't want to say I didn't like it. I just didn't like it as much as I've liked the others. With books such as Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, there were characters I was rooting for them. I liked them. I enjoyed reading about them and reading their stories. I didn't get that from Emma. I really didn't care about Emma's character. I didn't really care about the other characters that much. I think with all of these romances, like, Jane Austen created a lot of romantic cliches, so, like, you gotta remember that when you're reading them, and I don't mind the romantic cliches at all, but, I don't know, if you look at the size of this, it's one of the longer Jane Austen books out there, and it felt too long. I think it could have been summed up in a lot less. I stopped caring at points. I kind of skimmed through some sections because I was like, I know what's coming. I know what's going to happen next. So you've got your main female character, Emma, and her best friend, Harriet Smith. And then you've got your male characters. You've got Mr. Knightley, I want to say Mr. Elton, and Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin's, I guess, is more of a sub-character. You don't really see him too much. I mean, he's important to the story, but he's not a main character that does much talking. And then you have Emma's father. Emma's father is a fun character. I think he is a very silly, paranoid older man. And, like, his character, I guess, if I have to pick a favorite character, it's probably the dad, which I know is kind of silly. And he was, like early on in the story, there's a wedding, and, like, he doesn't want anyone to eat the cake because he thinks everyone's gonna get sick from the cake, and it's bad for you, and his character is so overly paranoid, you just kind of think it's adorable at points, but sometimes you're also like, oh man, if I actually had to deal with someone like this, I might get a little annoyed after a while. But again, he's a stereotype, he's a cliche of, like, the overprotective father figure. So I liked that character. Emma, I don't even know how to describe Emma's character. I just didn't think she's not exactly arrogant. She's not exactly full of herself, but those are the words that come to mind when I think of Emma. She's very much of the mind that she can make things happen, that she knows what's best for other people, or that she somehow knows, like, things about other people and can make other people's lives better. Like, for example, Harriet Smith. She wants to elevate Harriet Smith to a higher level than she probably is. Again, this is a time when there was not exactly a caste system, but at the same time there were classes. And, like, Harriet's a low class. We don't actually know her family background. We don't know her history, and therefore she's a pretty low class. That's just how things work. It's unfortunate, but that's how things worked. But Emma was so determined to boost her station and get her something that really just wasn't within her grasp. And honestly, Harriet's character was so... I'm trying to think of a good word for it. Like, wishy-washy. But that's just because of who the character is. She's that stereotype. She's that cliche. And that is what a lot of Jane Austen characters are. They embody these different stereotypes and cliches. I mean, Pride and Prejudice, for example, literally Pride and Prejudice are two characters. Sense and Sensibility are two characters. That is something that Jane Austen does, and I love that. It's just with this particular story, I just didn't get into it much. I guess it's not apparent from the beginning who's going to end up with who. Except, it kind of is, kind of isn't. There's a lot of, like, things you can assume from this story, and there's a lot of things it's pretty predictable. But again, Jane Austen. It's classic, it's romance. It created some of these stereotypes in romance that we see today in a lot of stories. And it's not bad. Like, I liked this story. I would give it 3 stars. I give it 3 only because it was so long and I wanted it to be shorter. Because Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, even Persuasion, I don't remember Mansfield Park. I'm pretty sure all of them are shorter than Emma. Emma is so long, and I felt like you could have cut so much out of this story. I guess there are other characters. There's other characters in Emma. Those are the main ones you see in the beginning, but I don't want to... I'm guessing most people know the story of Emma. I gotta think. There's another male and female character that come in later. Oh goodness, I can't think of their names. Churchill. There's Churchill, and there's... Oh goodness, what's the female? She's the relative of Bates. I can't think of names right now. Oh, let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, Churchill. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I can find his name. Jane! Alright, I found it. It's Jane. I knew that the name was... I was like... It was right on the tip of my tongue. And I was thinking it might be Jane, but I was like... Oh, wait, no, Jane is the character from the other story. Jane, who is the relative of Miss Bates. I cannot remember the relation. I want to say, like, niece? I don't want to say daughter. It's not daughter. It's, like, niece or distant cousin. They are characters that come into the story later, and they all have, like, this weird... It's a lot of back and forth. It's a so-and-so should be with so-and-so, and so-and-so should be with so-and-so. It's very confusing, but I think it could have been summed up in like 2/3 to a half of what it was. Overall, I think if you really, really like Jane Austen, then it's definitely worth reading. Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility are better to me than this. They're shorter, and I love the characters of those stories. This one, I found it meh. But it still had the same writing style of Jane Austen. It was still the same type of story as Jane Austen. It just didn't have as much appeal for me. And that's my opinion. Alright, I don't have a whole lot more to say on it because, again, I don't know. Like, I feel like most people would know the story of Emma, but I don't want to spoil it. Because it really is, like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. I don't have a good I'm sure there's other romantic stories where it's like everyone thinks they're going to be with someone and then they're with someone else, and then you think, oh, this person, then it's not that person, and it continues on a lot. It's constantly moving, like, so-and-so's interested in so-and-so, but so-and-so is actually interested in so-and-so, and yeah, it's very confusing, and that's Emma. I mean, that's a lot of Jane Austen, where characters are interested in one person, or one character's pursuing one character, but that character's pursuing someone else, and it's a very romance. That's romance for you. That's the romance genre. All right, we're gonna draw for this week. All right, going in. Excuse me. All right, this week we are reading Lux. Ooh, I love Lux. Lux, the Lux series. It is a young adult sci-fi fantasy romance. There are 5 books in this series. It is by Jennifer I hope I don't say this wrong. Armentrout. She has written so many series and so many books. I love the writing of Jennifer Armentrout. I'm excited about this one. Hi, buddy. So next week I will be discussing book 1 of Lux. So I will see you next week. Bye!